What's up, everybody, and welcome to Monster Monday Recap. This is the show where every Monday I watch Teen Wolf, Being Human, and Walking Dead, and I recap basically what we saw on the last episode and what we expect to see on the next episode. Now, this being the first show, basically what this is going to be is I'm going to recap each show for whatever current season that we're in, and each episode I'm going to take a bunch of notes and then bring that information to you just in case if you missed it, and kind of do like a after show type feel. Now, if you have any questions, go ahead and send a tweet, comment, or post or whatever to the contact information downstairs, and you can hashtag Monster Monday, and I'll take a look at some of your questions, and depending on what show it's for, I'll go ahead and I'll answer some of those. So for today, we're going to start off with the Walking Dead season premiere this past Sunday, February 9th. Now, this was an interesting episode because, like I said before on my regular YouTube channel, if you guys watch it, it wasn't a big, huge intro episode, but it was something interesting to see. Now, there were a couple things that happened, but it was really focused around Michonne and Carl. While Rick was in the show, he did have his dialogue. I think it was more focused on the relationship that he had with Carl. Now, if you guys watch any of the after shows, like Talking Dead, for an example, they brought up a really good point where Carl has this bit of a struggle going on internally against his father. You know, he has to look for Rick, or look at Rick for answers when stuff hits the fan, when the governor came to attack, when Lori was pregnant, when she died, when all that happened. And I think all that pent-up anger and emotion that he had inside, you know, he thought he was the boss. He thought he could do it all, and with all that anger and all that rage that he had built up, once Rick was knocked out on the couch, all that anger and pent-up emotion kind of came out after he kind of explored the city. So that was something interesting to see, and I think now we can stop being annoyed of the character, because I know tons of people, including myself, are annoyed with the Carl character. So hopefully we can now accept him. Hopefully he'll be a little more relatable. Hopefully he'll be a little bit more likable, but we'll wait and see. Now, Michonne, on the other hand, one thing she brought up, the actor, what she brought up was that at the beginning of the episode, when she makes the pets and stuff like that she has following her around, and when she joins the zombie herd, she's kind of, you know, she's been hurt too many times, kind of opened herself up to all these people who she thought she can trust, and now that all this has happened, she kind of decides to go back. It's like a defense mechanism, so she doesn't feel hurt inside. And that's something that we kind of see, especially once we see the whole dream sequence, where she pictures herself talking to her baby's father, and the second character who could possibly be brother or brother-in-law or some kind of relative. When she's talking to them, we see how their journey went from when they were all together, a peaceful family, to possibly what they could have been during the apocalypse, and then to where they were while missing. We also get a feel of Michonne's character for how she feels about her baby, her child. There was that scene last season, or rather at the start of season 4, when she's holding little ass kicker, or Judith, and we see her crying, and now we kind of figure out why that happens. So basically the whole thing kind of shifts between the two characters and what they're going on. And a lot of key things that we saw were that now Michonne is now, she caught up with everybody else. She's now a little bit more open. Well, she only caught up with Rick and Carl, but these are two people who she really cares for, the leader and the little brother, in a sense. And we see that she's back to the way she was, being open, being a little bit more trusting. And after seeing like the zombie version of herself, she kind of, like, I guess something snapped, and she didn't want to go back to this. You know, she wanted to try to find everyone else. And at the beginning of the season, it kind of shows how she just didn't want to deal with it when she comes across the tracks. She didn't want to follow what the problem could have been, and she decides to go do her own thing. So to see her go back and it's great to see her, like, she's kind of like one step behind, and then finally when she joins the Carl and Rick, it's an interesting ending. It's definitely pretty nice, with the little joke that Rick says to Carl. And then again, Carl, on the other hand, he goes and he thinks he's the boss. He thinks he's you know, he thinks he's at boss level, and so he goes and he explores the little neighborhood, I guess, that they're in, and he's get too many close calls. The first one, there was a pile of zombies that kind of fell on him. The second one, he gets into a house, and the zombie almost gets him. It almost bites his leg off, and I was kind of hoping it would, just to see what that would do to the show, but it didn't. And I think out of those close calls and seeing all that, I think I think what the best part of it too was a little bit later there was a moment with him and Rick, and I don't want to spoil it because I definitely think it's a really nice piece of what they did. Carl kind of snaps to as well, and he realizes, okay, he's not who he thought he could be. He's not at that level where he thought he was, and now he feels a little more in tune, I guess, with his dad. So that's going to be something interesting to see where he goes from there. But there was one scene in particular for Carl where when they first get into this new house that they find, he sees this room. It's got like all these games. It's got a nice bed, some like I think comic books I saw, and it looks like a kid's room. Then he turns around, sees a TV, possibly an Xbox with a bunch of games. And you would think he would want to turn it on and starts playing it, but then when he looks at his reflection inside the TV, he kind of snaps and is like, okay, this is the real world. I have to think survival 101. And then just like whatever, just throws all the games and stuff on the floor. And that was something kind of interesting to see because, you know, his childhood was essentially stripped away, and it was kind of something that Rick and Lori were talking about when they were first pregnant. So that was something interesting. And then, of course, Michonne... her moment, I guess, was when she reaches, I guess, this little mini mart or wherever where they were at before. She sees a note or whatever, and she kind of sees what happened. I guess that kind of helps her realize, okay, you know, I'm more correct for doing this. I'm more in the right for wanting to reconnect with these people, and maybe she thinks she's one step behind somebody else instead of Rick and Carl. But that was, I think, her moment is when she's like, okay, you know, I'm getting there. There's also a major action scene as well. If you guys haven't seen it as well, I don't want to spoil it, but that's also the turning point as well for the character of Michonne. So that was really interesting. Alright guys, so what do you think about this last episode? What do you guys think is going to happen on the next episode? Now, there was a bit of a little trailer of what we can expect to see, and I think it's going to focus, I think it's the Daryl focused episode that I commented about on my show, I think last week or on Monday. So that's going to be really awesome, because we are going to see a little bit of Norman's past, and I think that's something that we're going to see this season, or at least these first couple episodes, is we're going to see everybody in a broken state, possibly trying to revert back to some kind of defense mechanism and realize that they're better as a whole rather as individuals. But there were a couple things hinted at that maybe some people are going to leave others behind, that relationships are going to be tested, and I think Maggie and Glenn could be one of those relationships that we can see tested, but I don't think that's going to happen next episode. That might be in the one after, so we'll wait to see. Next on Being Human, so this was interesting. This was it kind of plays off a little bit of what happened on last week's episode when the puppy was born. It was a baby. It was a female baby wolf, a pup, and Josh and Nora brought her into the world. And this new episode, I guess, it kind of starts off with them wanting to do a type of a baby shower, and with the baby shower, I guess it kind of erupted into something a lot more unexpected. It really this character who Josh calls Alpha Mark, who they find out that there's more werewolves in the city, and this one guy named Mark, he tries to be a little bit over dominant over Josh, and they kind of play on that, and that's actually plays a really big part in this whole episode, actually, because there's a lot of things that go on, and definitely you can see Mark trying to be maybe not the dominant one in an aggressive manner, but he definitely wants to try to step up to be a leader in a time that's very confusing for both halves, for the vampires and the werewolves. The vampires are coming off this disease, they're finally coming back, able to be themselves again. And then the werewolves, who were running in fear for the longest time and who are now joining and essentially becoming a whole pack, is something very interesting. Now, the show actually starts off with where we left off on last week's episode. Now, I wanted to start Monster Mondays with all 3 shows available, but due to their release dates, it didn't work out that way. So last week's episode, at the end, Aiden confronts Kat, and he tells her he's a vampire. And the show just ended with her laughing. So this week, we kind of see her a relationship moment, and And I like the way they filmed it, because they played a couple different scenes of them talking to each other, and then it got to a couple scenes of them just like fighting, kind of in their back corners, kind of sitting down and talking about it, and then fighting again, and it was really interesting. But basically, the Kat was asking all these different questions, and essentially it came to a point where Kat doesn't trust Aiden. Either she thinks he's too dangerous, or she doesn't. Maybe she's scared that he's gonna bite her, or who knows what. But there's definitely some kind of fear against Aiden, to a point where she kicks Aiden out of the house. There's a scene later on where Aiden kind of, I guess he wants to go visit Kat, and so he's across the street, and Kat goes into the house, and then I guess he imagines that he I guess kind of mind controls Kat, and they basically get back together. But it's not like it's a full on like Jedi mind trick. It's kind of like a partial one, I think, because that's what it kind of looks like. And then it snaps back to, and we realize that was just Aiden kind of thinking it in his head. Now, we do know that Aiden, or at least, I don't know if he's gotten any better, but from the previous seasons, Aiden is not as well as a Jedi as we expected him to be. And that's actually funny, because Sam Witwer, he's big Star Wars fan, so that's kind of funny. But so we see that going on. Then we get to Sally. So Sally, this past couple episodes, she's turning more into a witch, and something that's really troubling for me is that she keeps using magic for good, and she always has good intentions, but there's always something bad that happens. And we see it when she does one spell. I guess they throw this baby shower. Sally comes over, and then the pack comes over, and then Josh's sister comes over, and she apparently was institutionalized because she has an alcohol problem. And so there's a part where Josh's sister is like tripping out because she sees all these bottles of vodka, and all this other alcoholic beverages and stuff like that. And so she just goes upstairs. She just bolts, gets away from it, goes upstairs. Once she's upstairs, she starts freaking out. It's like, I can't do this. And then you kind of get this feeling that, she might give in. And so Sally casts a spell on her to try to, I guess, talk to her, to try to help her. And again, she has good intentions. What ends up happening, though, is Sally gets thrown back into the 20s, and she sees Aiden Capone in the 20s. And this is the first time that everyone, well, I guess that she does, because Josh, I think, saw it earlier, but this is really the first time we see Sally see Aiden kill. But during the 20s, when he had his first son, I can't remember his name right now, but at that time in Aiden's life, he was a vampire. He was like Bishop. He was a blood-sucking monster, and she sees that, and Aiden then sees like a random civilian. He starts toying with her. He starts singing a song, and he's like a predator. He's taunting his food. And so Sally jumps into the civilian, even though it's a memory. And I don't know how that plays, if that's going to alter time, or if that was like a dream. I'm not sure what exactly happened. But Aiden responds, and Aiden kind of just like, whatever, and bites her. And after he's done sucking the blood of the civilian, Sally jumps out of the body, and Aiden just starts laughing. Like, he's just having fun at being a killer. And that really affects Sally, because later on in the episode, she tries to connect with Aiden. She tells Aiden what she sees and how terrible, it was that she saw this. And in addition, Aiden's having this girl troubles with Kat, and when he reconnects with the son, Kenny, he goes on a drinking binge. Now, it's funny, because I thought he was going to get high or something, but no, this guy, he gets alcoholic with the amount of blood apparently he drinks. Now, what's funny is that Sam Witwer, very early at the early conventions, when he first talks about him being on the show, and his explanation for his character Aiden is that Aiden is an alcoholic, and that he's trying to struggle, trying to be, I guess, sober, but he's such an alcoholic, it's it leads to a bunch of problems. And so we kind of see that happen. He gets really drunk. He talks to Kenny about it, to a point where he kind of or he asked Kenny to wipe the memory of Kat, just because he's so heartbroken and so in love. And then there's a bit of an issue too with that because all of this was happening during the baby shower. And again, going back to what I was saying before, time of confusion and stuff like that, the werewolves, especially Alpha Mark, notices Aiden and Kenny as a vampire. And it's funny, when they first get to the party, there's a little funny moment too. That's ridiculous. But he recognizes Kenny and Aiden as a vampire, and he doesn't dig it at all. And so Kenny starts flirting with a younger werewolf, and Mark just flips out. Mark's like, he tells another werewolf, "Hey, go get a wooden stake," and he basically instigated a fight that was inevitable. That Aiden comes to Kenny's help. Kenny and Aiden start fighting some of the werewolves, and then that just kind of blows a whole gasket. So there's a bunch of emotion going on, because, especially with Josh, not really knowing what he is now ever since he came back as more human than full on werewolf. There's something about his character and kind of what him and Nora are going through that it's like, it kind of looks like they're all about to split. Like, they all have different feelings for each other. They can't see everyone in the same way that they used to, and so that's kind of something weird and interesting. And I wonder how that's going to play into effect. Now, for the next episode, I think we see a little more connection with Kenny, but we also kind of explore, I think, what happens with him and his now werewolf girlfriend, which Aiden kind of hints at the end of the episode. It's like, are you ready for the trouble that's about to come from both sides? And it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. And that's interesting, because that could be what happens on next week's episode. So what are your thoughts? Let me know. Again, post, comment, tweet, whatever. Put all that stuff downstairs and let me know. And finally, the last show for Teen Wolf. Now, Teen Wolf, sorry, I have all these notes because a lot of stuff happens. So Teen Wolf starts out with Stiles freaking out. He calls Scott in the middle of the night, and something's going on. Stiles he's panicking. We don't know what's going on with him. Scott's freaking out too, and apparently Stiles later says that he thinks he's in a room, he's in a basement, he's in some type of underground thing, and that he feels like his leg may be hurt or broken. He feels blood. He's very cold. He's not sure what's going on, and then it's kind of weird. Scott asks Stiles, "Why are you whispering?" And then Stiles is like, "Because I think there's somebody in here with me." And that was kind of freaking out, man. Now, if you saw last week's episode, at the end, the Oni, who, as far as up to that point, we assumed were the bad guys, we actually find out in this episode that they could be good guys. But at the end, a couple Oni try to fight Stiles in the hospital, and Stiles kills them. Or at least fades them. No, he kills them. He flat out kills them, because then they convert to the Fireflies, and they kind of burn out. So that was interesting. And so on this episode, they're trying to figure out where is Stiles. They're trying to find Stiles. And so they go to Lydia and to one of the twins. I can't remember their names because I keep confusing the two, and I don't remember which one's which. But Lydia's with one of the twins, and Scott calls Lydia, and he lets her know something's going on with Stiles. And Lydia's like, "Oh, you need to call your dad." He call his dad, which Stiles had asked Scott to promise him not to do. And they end up having to do it, and it ends up helping in the end. But they ended up having to do it, and so it's weird. So they go through this whole mess of trying to find him, and the whole time that they're trying to find him, they're kind of uncovering small clues here and there on where he could be, on what's going on. We kind of see a little bit with Lydia on what's going on with her, how she's able to hear something, how she's able to hear noises rather than everybody else, especially the wolves who have super hearing. And I'll explain what that is a little bit later. And so they find that Stiles could have been at the hospital at one point, but they don't know where he is now. And again, while all this is going on, Stiles is in this room with something who at first I thought was the Duroc, but we later find out was a different demon. And what he does is he draws a backward 5 on the wall, which we now know is not actually a 5. It's a Japanese character in kanji, which would be the third level of Japanese writing. Usually kanji characters can mean a whole word instead of just like sounds. So I actually tried researching to see which what sound it would be or what word would it mean, and I haven't been able to find it just yet. So if you guys know, go ahead and let me know. Either tweet me on Twitter, comment on here, let me know what that kanji is if you guys figured it out, because I'm still trying to. But basically, what happens is that we find out that the demon starts playing riddles with Stiles, and Stiles is trying to figure out what's going on. And this demon actually kind of starts playing tricks. And so immediately I thought, oh man, that must be the Nogistune, the demon fox that you know, we've been trying to figure out what his deal is since a couple episodes ago, where Allison and Isaac and Mr. Argent, they go talk to the Japanese guy, I forget his name too right now. They go find out of him that there's more than one kitsune. There's 13 different kinds. And I'm wondering if they're probably something similar to different spectrums of emotion or something similar to that. Now, the character does explain it, but I kind of forgot. Man, it's a really bad show to forget. I should remember these things. But anyways, so they find out, you know, we see him playing jokes with Stiles, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And it's interesting, because the whole time I kind of figured it was Stiles, just because the voice kind of sounds like Dylan O'Brien. So that was kind of interesting to see how they reacted together, especially being in the room. And then we go back kind of to Scott's dad, who, after hearing the message, starts getting an idea of some, I guess, maybe mental disorders that were very common with some other people. He says how he's able to smell something, some, you know, rank, a couple other things, and he suggests the idea that maybe he's still sleepwalking, that he never woke up in a different room, or that he wasn't kidnapped or anything like that, that he's probably still sleepwalking, that he even calls sleepwalking. And they go to this building that's there was an institution where I guess the serial killer from the start of the season, 3B, was in, and apparently there's not many clues there that kind of lead on, but it could be possibly for future episodes. But basically, through all this, they kind of come back, and Derek, I guess, wants to talk to Kira, and he starts talking to Kira, saying, you know, I want to know everything you know about Foxfire and about the kitsunes and stuff like that. And it sounds like he knows a lot about it too. I'm not sure if they did it, you know, behind the scenes where they all talked to each other about it, or if they informed Derek of some of the information. It's kind of weird because Derek's character kind of in and out. We do see more of him, but we don't really see him as often. And there's also the question of Peter. Where the heck is Peter? I haven't seen Peter since the start of the season, and I'm wondering if he may have something to do with this, since he you know, states at the end of season 3A that he's always the alpha. So that was interesting to see, because I also thought that that Peter was also the supposed demon that we were watching in the basement, but it wasn't. So that was something interesting. So later we come to find that that Stiles was trying to do something at the hospital, I guess trying to help. And it's weird because then they run, it gets to a real emotional scene. Now, I love these scenes between Stiles and Scott, because both Tyler Posey and Dylan O'Brien, they're supposedly really great best friends. They're like brothers outside of the show, and on the show, you really see them connect. And their moments together as bros, it's very touching to watch, because my best friend is like my brother, and so to see that setting, it's like, man, I can relate. So we see them having a little discussion once everything gets said and done. Once they find Stiles, they take him to the hospital just to kind of figure out if he may have some kind of mental disorder or whatever, because it actually turns out from last episode that Scott's mom has heard you know, she interviewed Stiles, asked him, oh, what are you having troubles with, sleeping, stuff like that, and it actually, it's the same stuff that his mom had, and his mom died early on, and now we know why, because she had, you know, this mental breakdown or this mental disorder, and now that Stiles has it, this is where it gets touching, where Stiles tells Scott he has this, and Scott kind of freaks out, and they share it out, they bro it out, and he tells me, no, I'll do something. Probably he'll turn him into a werewolf if that's what it takes, because once you get bit, that basically heals you, so that could be something interesting. Maybe we'll see Dylan with werewolf powers, but from what I understand, Dylan didn't want powers. He I do remember he said that he would like the idea of maybe a dream sequence of him having powers, but that on the show, I don't think he had actually wanted it, so that'd be interesting to see. So while that was going on, they kind of found out that Stiles does have this tumor in his head, and as they're running these diagnostics through a CAT scans, and that kind of plays to a part a little bit later near the end of the episode. Now while that's going on, while they're still trying to find for Scott, they find an old tape, and it sounds very fake. It sounds like it doesn't sound very fake, but it sounds like a recording of what happened in World War II. Apparently, they were trying to call Allison to get her help to try to find Stiles. And it's weird because Isaac finds her, is like, why haven't you been picking up her phone? And apparently her phone was off the whole time, and she says she's never turns it off. So she has all these messages. It all sounds the same. It's the exact same thing, of just a bunch of things. It sounds like it's at a Japanese internment camp. Now, of course, we know that Japanese culture is definitely going to play a lot in this, as the kitsune is a fox entity from the Japanese myth. So it sounds like a bunch of World War II directions during of what they would tell prisoners of war. And they go to Kira's father, who says that it sounds fake because they're talking about a certain camp in California, but during World War II, that camp never existed. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays on. Alright, so at the end of the episode, Stiles is now, I guess, 100% taken over by this demon. This demon now controls controls Stiles. And Stiles starts walking out of the room. He gets dressed and then he starts walking out. And then we see Kira's mom. Now, Kira and Kira's mom had a little thing going on early in the beginning of the episode where Kira, I guess, is reading a book or whatever. One of her light bulbs burns out, and so she starts trying to grab it, and she sees that she can, I guess, turn it on by touching it because she has these electrical abilities, and she actually pops the thing. So Kira's mom comes in, like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be going to bed. So she puts in a new light bulb, and as she's touching it, she also kind of does something to the bulb itself. And there's that, oh, mom knows something I don't know moment where she doesn't want to tell me. They share that moment early on in the episode, and so now, as Stiles is trying to leave the hospital, Kira's mom shows up in the elevator, and she's like, you know, I'm going to stop you. And then Stiles is like, oh, no, you can't. And then Kira's mom is like, well, if I can't, I know somebody who can. And then we see two Oni appear behind her. And so I'm thinking that the Oni have always been good guys. They're trying to stop the demon wolf. The demon fox, the Nogistune. So that's going to be something interesting to see as well. Now, I kind of miss what the season premiere, what next episode is going to be, but I think it was just some kind of incident where the coach is going to die. Coach is going to get shot in the chest with an arrow. What the hell is going on? This is going to be weird because apparently there's all this other stuff going on, and it's like in a school setting, so that's going to be weird. And usually the sneak peek of next episode usually isn't a long thing. It's usually something very small and something that may or may not be entirely related to the whole big picture, just a little snippet of that leads up to this. So this is going to be interesting. So what do you guys think about the Nogistune? And actually, with that being the show, what do you guys think about the whole show? What do you guys think about Walking Dead? What's going on next episode? How do you guys think Carl's going to be now that everybody's freaking annoyed with him? And are we going to see better of him or what? Being human, is there a possibility that Aiden can freak out again? And is he going to reconnect with Kat? And what's going on with this pack? Josh is now, I guess, okay with the pack with Alpha Mark, and are they going to duke it out? Is Josh going to be the leader of the pack? Who knows? And now with Teen Wolf, are we going to see a big fight scene with the Nogistune against all the wolves? And are we going to finally see Kira maybe transform into a fox? That'd be cool. What do you guys think? Let me know. Go ahead, tweet me, comment, post anything downstairs below. If you do decide to follow on Twitter, hashtag Monster Mondays or hashtag Totally a Fan. Let me know any questions you guys have. And that's the show for today. So until next Monday, I'll see you guys.